Welcome to Reddit Stories, where OP's mother-in-law is demanding that they buy her house from her. Am I the jerk for not buying my mother-in-law's house from her? I'm 29 male and my wife is 28. We've been married for 3 years and have been living in a small apartment this whole time. We finally saved enough for a down payment and are actively looking to buy our first house. We're both excited and we've both been browsing listings for the past month. My mother-in-law, who's 52, recently brought up the idea of us buying her house. She owns a small place about 30 minutes from where we live now, and she wants to sell it so she can go live with her sister in another state. She's been very vocal about how it would be a win-win for all of us. She gets to sell her house to someone she trusts, and we get a great deal on our first home. Here's the thing. I don't want that house. It's not in good condition, it's in a bad neighborhood, and honestly, I've never liked it. It feels dark, cramped, and outdated. I want our first home to be a place I actually look forward to coming home to, not somewhere I already feel uncomfortable just visiting. My wife knows how I feel, and she agrees that it's not ideal, but she keeps telling me that maybe we could just use it as our starter home. Her thinking is that we live there for a few years, fix it up, and then sell it later for something nicer. I told her that I'd rather wait longer or buy something in a better area than move into a place that I already dislike. Well, the other night, my mother-in-law was over for dinner, and she started talking like it was already a done deal. She was going on about what we could do with the backyard, how we could remodel the kitchen, how excited she was to finally move in with her sister. I was trying to stay polite at first, but it just kept going. Finally, I cut her off and said, "Look, I need to be honest. I really don't want to buy your house. It's not what we're looking for, and I would never want to live there." She looked absolutely stunned. She didn't say anything. She just got up and left. My wife was furious and told me I didn't need to be so harsh. She said I overreacted and that I embarrassed her mom. Now mother-in-law isn't answering texts or calls from either of us, and my wife is telling me I need to apologize for the way I said it, even if I don't want to buy the house. So Reddit, am I the jerk for how I handled it? Should I have just kept quiet a little longer? Not the jerk. Buying a house is one of the biggest financial and lifestyle decisions you'll ever make, not a family favor. You're not turning down a hand-me-down sweater. You're potentially locking yourself into years of mortgage payments and a neighborhood you don't feel safe in. Your mother-in-law's feelings might be hurt, but that doesn't mean you're obligated to buy something you don't want. Stand firm. You're house shopping, not guilt shopping. Not the jerk. But you definitely waited too long to say something. The real issue here isn't that you said no, it's that you let it drag out this long. A firm but respectful "we're not interested" early on would have saved everyone from this drama. Lesson learned. Next time, speak up before people start making plans for a future you never agreed to. Some people need to be taught that they don't get to design your life. Update 1 week later. Things have gotten worse since I posted. My mother-in-law has been telling extended family that we are ungrateful and rude, and now a bunch of relatives are messaging my wife asking if she's okay. Apparently, my mother-in-law is telling people that this isn't just about the house. She's saying stuff like, "You don't know how he acts behind closed doors," implying that I'm controlling or aggressive. It's completely false, and it feels crazy to be painted like some kind of monster just because I said I didn't want to buy her house. What hurts the most is seeing how this is affecting my wife. She's been really quiet lately. She says she understands my reasons, but I can tell this is shaking her. Her family's turning on her too now, and I think she feels caught in the middle. I feel bad for how blunt I was that night, but at the same time, I was just being honest. I didn't yell or insult anyone. I just told the truth. I don't know what to do. I feel like no matter what I say or how gently I say it, my mother-in-law has already decided that I'm the villain in her story, and she's got a head start spinning that version to everyone else. I hate what this is doing to my wife. If anyone's been through something like this, I could really use some advice right now. You did nothing wrong. It sounds like you're doing exactly what a grounded, responsible partner should be doing. Your mother-in-law is stuck in a different reality, one where any boundary you set becomes an act of hostility. In her mind, you are the bad guy, because that's the only way her story makes sense to her. It's not fair, but it explains why she's reacting this way. People like her feel deeply threatened when they can't control the narrative, and when someone says no, it shakes the illusion they've built. But her reaction is hers to own. It's not your job to fix her perception or make her like you. Your job is to protect your peace and your wife's well-being. If people in the family are letting that toxicity in, that's your signal to start building stronger walls. You don't need that kind of chaos in your life. You know, Karen, it's amazing how two people can go through the exact same moment but walk away with completely different stories about what happened. What feels calm and respectful to one person can feel like a personal attack to another. Especially in families, Reddit boy. That's where the wounds run deepest. All that unspoken history, old roles, and buried expectations, it brews under the surface until even kindness gets twisted. It's like they're not even reacting to your words. They're reacting to their own fear, to something unresolved inside themselves, and then projecting it out onto you without even realizing it. And when you finally see that some people really are living in a different reality, it doesn't make their behavior okay, but it does awaken a different kind of compassion. Not because they're right, but because you understand the chaos they're trapped in, and that it's not your job to fix them. Right. All you can do is protect your own peace so you don't get pulled into their storm. And if you really do want to help them, it has to come from a place of deep stillness where you don't get triggered. Sometimes the most healing thing you can say is, I know it hurts right now. I'm not here to fix you or judge you. I'm just here, and I care. My best friend says that my fiancé admitted feelings for her, but he denies it. I've been with my fiancé for 10 years. We got together when I was 17. My best friend and I have known each other since we were kids. We met when we were 8. These two people have been the constants in my life, and up until a few years ago, they both got along well enough. We'd go out together or stay in and watch movies. Things changed after an accident. My best friend came to pick me up one night for a movie and drinks at her place. I didn't know she had already had a few drinks before getting in the car. On the way to her house, she suddenly veered off the road and hit a tree. Her car was totaled. I had cuts and bruising from the airbags, and I ended up in the hospital. The police arrested her for driving intoxicated. My fiancé had to come get me in the middle of the night. Since then, he's been polite but distant with her. He says he can't forgive her because of the risk that she caused us. She says the road was slick and accidents happen, and he shouldn't hold it against her forever. I forgave her, but he didn't. He doesn't fight about it or bring it up. He just quietly leaves the room whenever she's around. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. She texted and asked me to meet her for lunch. I thought it was just normal catching up. We sat down, ordered food, and before anything even showed up, she told me my fiancé had confessed feelings for her. She said he wanted to be with her and she told him no. I felt my whole body go tense. I asked when this happened, where they were, whether he messaged her, if I could see the message. She got angry right away and said I should believe her without proof. She told me if I needed details, then clearly I didn't trust her. She said if after all our years of friendship I didn't believe her, then I was better off being with a cheater. Then she stormed out before the food arrived. I went home shaking and told my fiancé everything. He looked confused and asked when this supposedly happened. He said the only times he sees her are when he walks through the living room to grab food. He's never alone with her in the house. He works from home. I'm the one who goes out to do errands because he has asthma, so he's barely left the house this entire year. We have security cameras on the doors. If she stopped by, my phone would alert me. I asked him if maybe he messaged her. He handed me his phone without hesitation and told me to check anything I needed to. I went through the whole thing and I found no messages, no deleted threads, and no weird apps. They're not friends on social media. He has her number saved because she's been around for years, but there was nothing between them at all. He asked again when she said this happened. I didn't have an answer because she refused to give one. My mind has been all over the place. Part of me wonders if she lied because she knows he dislikes her now. Maybe she wanted to punish him. Maybe she wanted to break us up. Another part of me wondered if something actually happened and she's telling the truth, but refusing details for some reason that makes no sense. Our friend group is split. Some say it's suspicious she won't give any details. Others say she has no reason to lie and that I should believe her over my fiancé. But there's no proof, no timeline, no chance for them to be alone, no message or call logs, nothing. I called her afterward, hoping she'd calm down and talk, but she told me not to contact her unless I believe her. Then she hung up. I keep thinking about the accident. Before it, she and my fiance got along very well. After it, he pulled away and she started pointing out how he was weird around her. She said he was grumpy, unforgiving, and distant. She seemed bitter when he didn't let go like I did. I never once thought she had feelings for him or resentment toward him, but now I don't know. I've been sick to my stomach for days, and I don't know how to handle this. 1. If your friend were telling the truth, she'd have given you basic details without getting angry. Most people would want you to understand what happened. Instead, she shut down the moment you asked simple questions, which says a lot. 2. Nothing about her story lines up. He barely sees her, they're never alone, and there's no sign of any messages or moment where this could have happened. It feels more like resentment or leftover bitterness from the accident than anything else. Meanwhile, your fiancé did the exact opposite of someone hiding something. He stayed calm, handed you his phone, and answered everything. She's the one refusing even one concrete fact, and that speaks for itself. Your friend's reaction tells the whole story. If someone dropped news like that on me and I started asking questions, I'd expect them to understand. They'd offer every detail they could. Instead, she made it a loyalty test and stormed off. That's not how someone acts when they're being honest. She probably also knows your fiancé doesn't leave the house and that you'd see any door camera alerts. She knows he avoids her. She knows they haven't been alone. She knew you'd check his phone. She probably hoped you'd panic and break things off before realizing none of the details line up. Whatever her motives are, she's not being a friend right now. Update 3 days later. When I woke up the morning after posting, I didn't expect hundreds of responses. I sat down and read every one. Almost everyone said the same thing. If my best friend were telling the truth, she wouldn't hide the details. And if she wasn't lying, she was still being a terrible friend for how she handled it. Some comments made me realize how much strain my fiancé has dealt with because of her since the accident. I woke him up and apologized. I told him I trusted him. Then I took someone's advice and made a group chat with our mutual friends, excluding her. I sent them the post and asked them to read it. A lot of them hesitated, but one friend spoke up first. She said if she didn't know any of us and read this as a stranger, the liar would be obvious. Everyone else eventually agreed that it looked suspicious. Later that day, one friend called and asked to meet privately. She's the one who's closest to my ex-best friend besides me. We met up, and she admitted my ex-best friend had been complaining about my fiancé for months, saying he was tearing us apart, that I was spending less time with her because of him, that I was choosing him over her. Then she showed me screenshots. Texts where my ex-best friend ranted about my fiancé. Texts where she called his behavior toward her unfair. A picture of her in her maid of honor dress with the caption saying, "My dress for the funeral of our friendship." Texts where she said it didn't matter if she was lying. Texts where she snapped at this friend for asking questions. This friend said she hadn't reached out to me prior because she thought after the wedding, my ex-best friend would realize it wasn't as bad as she thought it was going to be. Then when all this happened, she didn't think that texts were proof enough to show me and nuke our relationship. But the post made her feel guilty, so she decided she needed to tell me. Armed with that, I drove to my ex-best friend's apartment. She let me in. I asked her if she had anything she wanted to say before we went any further. She didn't. She repeated the same vague story, refused even basic details, and said I should trust her or stay with a cheater. So I told her that I knew she was lying. Then I showed her the screenshots. She accused our mutual friend of photoshopping them. I told her I'd seen the messages directly on her phone. Then she switched and said some people were trying to tear us apart after the accident and ruin our friendship. She said it wasn't fair. I told her the real problem was that she never apologized for the accident, never took responsibility, and spent years blaming the road conditions and acting like my fiancé was wrong for still being upset. I told her that even if her story had been true, the way she handled it was proof that she wasn't a good friend. You don't drop something life-changing on someone and refuse to answer even one question. You don't demand blind obedience over basic logic. You don't make it a test. I told her I was done. I told her not to contact me again. I told her I had informed our friend group and sent the screenshots, and they could choose who they wanted to associate with. As for me, I was out. I walked out of her apartment feeling drained, but there's also a massive weight lifted off my shoulders. As for the wedding, I asked my fiancé's younger sister to be my maid of honor. She was thrilled. My fiancé is relieved he won't have to be around my ex-best friend ever again. As for the friend who told me the truth, I'm keeping my distance for now. Not because she did something wrong, but because I'm hurt she waited so long. She said she was scared to blow things up, and I get that. But she still watched all of this play out for months without saying anything. Maybe in time I'll feel differently, but right now I need space. It makes sense that you're hurt. Your trust took hits from multiple directions, but your friend who finally told you didn't betray you. She made a hard choice in a messy situation. It's not easy to blow the whistle on someone you've known for years. When she realized the damage this lie was causing, she stepped up. Take time, but don't close the door on her completely. People can freeze when they don't know how to help. Now that you've confronted her, I'm glad she finally admitted she lied. It took being cornered, but at least you know the truth. She didn't just slip up. She built a whole story to sabotage your relationship. And when you didn't believe her immediately, she tried to guilt you. Cutting her off was the right move. Some friendships end quietly, but this one needed a firm boundary. Crazy how the best friend expected everyone to take her word without a single detail. That's not honesty. That's theater. Yeah, and meanwhile, the fiancé is handing over his whole phone like he's submitting homework early. Turns out, the only thing she confessed was how much drama she was willing to stir up. And the only thing OP chose was peace, a solid partner, and one less headache at the wedding. Am I the jerk for insisting we move in together now that we're having a baby? I, male 41, have been dating Jess, who's 37, for the past 5 years. From the very beginning, Jess was clear about what she wanted. She said she never wanted to get married or have kids, and if she ever did get pregnant by accident, she wouldn't keep the baby. She wasn't harsh about it. She was very upfront, and I respected her honesty. I also figured people change sometimes or life goes in unexpected directions, so I didn't push it. About a year into dating, things felt serious to me. I brought up moving in together. At that point, we were spending a few nights a week at each other's places anyway, and I thought combining households made sense. She said no, she liked her personal space. Her exact words were that she enjoyed the rhythm we had going, where we'd have our nights together when one of us stayed over, then a few days a week to decompress alone in our own homes. I didn't love that answer, but she didn't present it as a negotiation. It was more of a boundary, so I accepted it. And we kept it like that for years. A few nights together, then our alone days. It was unusual compared to most couples I know, but she seemed steady and comfortable with it. A few weeks ago, everything changed. Jess told me that she's pregnant. I thought she'd be upset or confused, but she wasn't. She'd been quiet for a few days beforehand, which was unlike her, so I'd worried something was wrong. Instead, she told me she's keeping the baby. She didn't give some big emotional speech. She just said she thought about it and decided she wanted to keep it. I was surprised, more like shocked, but happy. I felt this wave of responsibility and excitement hit me all at once. I told her I'd be there for both of them, and I meant it. After the surprise wore off, I brought up moving in together again. I didn't do it in a controlling way. I explained that I wanted to be present, supportive, hands-on. I don't want to be a weekend dad type of situation. I want to wake up with her, help with the morning sickness, be the one who runs out to get something she's craving. And when the baby comes, I want to handle the 2 a.m. feedings, the diapers, the long shifts, all of it. Jess said no again. She said her plan was simple. We continue exactly as we are. We'd sleep over at each other's places like before. We'd have together time with the baby when one of us stayed over. And when it was her turn to have alone time, she'd take the baby. And I'd have mine when I took the baby. I sat there trying to picture this. 2 separate homes, 2 sets of everything. 2 rents, 2 nurseries, a newborn being shuffled back and forth between houses in the early days. No consistency, no family home. I told her it didn't make sense to me. Not practically, not emotionally. I asked her if she saw me as a long-term partner. She said yes, and that she loved me. She said she just didn't want to change how we lived. Her answers didn't reassure me. If she loved me and saw us as a long-term partners, why wouldn't she want us to build a home together now that the baby is coming? Why wouldn't she want stability? I talked to a buddy of mine about all of this. He told me point blank that I might need to accept her way. He said if I pushed too hard, we might break up, and I'd end up seeing my child even less. That hit me hard. I don't want to lose Jess. I don't want to lose my child. I don't want to start fatherhood as some part-time visitor. Now I'm questioning myself. Am I old-fashioned for wanting to live together as a family? Am I being selfish? Or am I being responsible in wanting to support my partner and child every day instead of 3 nights a week? I'm lost. I don't understand her logic or why she wants this kind of arrangement for a newborn, and I don't know how to handle the possibility of being an outsider in my own child's life. That's why I'm here. I'm going to be blunt here. Why are you still with her? You two want totally different things. She's made it clear for years that she doesn't want marriage, doesn't want to live together, and like the separate house setup. You want a traditional family under one roof. That's not something you can compromise into working. She's not wrong for wanting her space, and you're not wrong for wanting a home together. But you're not compatible. You're basically co-parenting already. At this point, talk to a lawyer, get a plan in place, and think hard about whether this relationship fits the life that you want. No jerks here. She said no to living together, and that's her right. But you're also allowed to want more involvement than a few nights a week. 2 things you need: a DNA test, since you're not married, a custody plan drawn up by a lawyer, even if you stay together. This setup can get messy fast if nothing is written down. Protect yourself and make sure you have real access to your child. After that, you can decide whether this relationship still works for you. Update 1 day later. I didn't expect so many comments on my first post. Those of you who called me a man-child or said she doesn't want to move in with you because you're a man-baby can buzz off. For everyone else, thanks for encouraging me to actually get to the bottom of this. A lot of you said the same thing. Sit down with her and ask what's really going on. So that's what I did. We talked on the phone last night. I didn't want to fight or tiptoe around it anymore. I told her I needed the truth about why she didn't want to move in together now that we're expecting a baby. I even suggested options that would still give her space, like a duplex or a house where she could have her own area. But she kept repeating the same lines about liking her house better and needing privacy. None of it felt like a real answer. So I asked her straight out if there was someone else. I wasn't trying to accuse her of anything. I just needed her to be honest with me. I asked her if she was seeing someone on her me days and if that had anything to do with this. She didn't deny it. She didn't even hesitate. She just said it wasn't cheating because what she does on her personal days is none of my business and that this was part of our deal. I didn't even know how to respond. To me, those days were about having alone time to reset, not spending time with another guy. She kept saying I misunderstood the arrangement and that she had been clear from the beginning about no communication, no questions on those days. But I never once thought that meant other relationships were happening. So I asked if this was why she wanted to keep 2 houses and if the other guy was the father. She said he wasn't because he had had a vasectomy years ago. Somehow that didn't make me feel any better. I've been cooking for her, stocking her fridge, supporting her. Meanwhile, she's been seeing someone else regularly. She admitted it had been going on for 2 or 3 years off and on. And before that, there was another guy. I told her none of this was what we agreed to. She said I couldn't be upset because she never lied and that I assumed we were exclusive without her promising that. I told her that's not how relationships work, not after 5 years together. At that point, I told her we were done. I told her I'd be talking to a lawyer and that we'd need a paternity test once the baby is born. She said I was proving I didn't mean anything I said about supporting her. I told her I don't owe her anything anymore. My responsibility is to the baby, if the baby is even mine, and that she can reach out to her other partner for support if she needs it. Now I'm so angry and frustrated. I'm embarrassed I didn't see any of this earlier. I thought we had an unusual setup because it worked for her anxiety, and I loved her enough to make it work. I didn't think she was using those days to date other people. I can't believe I didn't see this coming. I'm taking the advice many of you gave me. I'm getting a lawyer, I'm getting a test, and I'm protecting myself from this point on. I'm really sorry you're dealing with this. What she's doing right now is classic deflection. She's trying to twist this whole thing so that you feel guilty instead of looking at what she actually did. People who behave like this will flip the story around to make themselves the victim every time. Also, please don't sign anything at the hospital. There's a form that legally accepts paternity, and once your name goes on that paper, the system treats you as the father, even if a later test proves otherwise. It can take years to undo that. She can also refuse a paternity test while she's pregnant, which is why talking to a lawyer is the only real option here. Keep everything in writing from now on, and avoid long phone calls where she can twist your words. And honestly, if there was one other guy, there might have been more. I'm sorry, man. Protect yourself. Get a DNA test and get a panel while you're at it. She's been with other people without telling you, and that means your health might be at risk. Please take this part seriously. I've seen situations like this go sideways fast. Someone who lies and hides partners isn't thinking about your safety. Go to a doctor, get your test done, then get a lawyer. Don't sign the birth certificate without proof. You've been doing the work, and she's been using you. You deserve better, OP. His girlfriend wasn't building a home. She was juggling men and building turmoil. Right. OP showed up with commitment and found someone living a double life. At least now he knows the truth and can protect himself. Yeah, sometimes losing someone like her is the first real win that you actually get. Call the next client and cancel them for me. Ma'am, no. Hi all. I used to work as a client representative at a small animal clinic. This was about 2 years ago. We weren't a big place. We had a small lobby, a few exam rooms, and only 3 doctors on rotation. Because of that, our schedule was always packed. Sometimes we were booked a full week out, and during busy seasons, it could be even longer. Anyone who's tried booking a vet in San Francisco knows the struggle. It was a regular weekday morning, and we were already running behind. One doctor had a procedure that was taking longer than expected. Another was in with a complicated case, and the third was double booked with a last-minute emergency. My phone line was lighting up nonstop. People wanted meds refilled, appointment slots, tech visits, vaccine boosters, etc. Then she called. I'll call her Karen because, well, you'll see why. The moment I picked up, I could already hear the attitude in her voice. She didn't ease into the conversation or say good morning. She didn't even sound stressed or frantic, just entitled. She said she needed a wellness exam and vaccines today. Not later, not tomorrow, not this week, today. I pulled up the schedule like I always did. Everything was full. Every doctor had a completely blocked day. I even double-checked in case there had been a cancellation I missed. Nothing. So I calmly told her the earliest appointment was about a week out. The explosion that came next still echoes in my memory. She went from irritated to furious in seconds. She yelled that she had to be seen today because she needed to board her dog. She was flying out the next morning. She said she didn't have time for this nonsense and that we needed to make room. As if I could snap my fingers and magically create extra hours in a doctor's schedule. I apologized and offered the only reasonable option. I can put you on our waiting list. If anything opens up, we'll call you right away. Most people understand what that means. Of course, Karen didn't. She demanded that I squeeze her in anyway. She said she was already driving over and expected us to figure it out before she arrived. She wanted me to take someone else's appointment time and move them so that she could take it. Then, in the most baffling turn of events, she said, "Call the next client and cancel them. Tell them something came up. I need that slot." I swear, my brain paused. The audacity almost gave me motion sickness. I told her I absolutely couldn't do that. Not only because it's unethical, unprofessional, and goes against clinic policy, but because no clinic on earth calls innocent clients and lies just because someone else can't plan ahead. She didn't like that answer. She demanded again, this time louder and angrier, with his tone like I personally ruined her life. And when I still refused, she tried something even worse. She told me to give her the next client's phone number so she could call the person herself and work it out. I swear, I froze and was speechless for the longest 2 seconds. She wanted the private phone number of another client so she could harass them into giving up their appointment. I told her absolutely not. Common sense, that's private information. She yelled some more and called me unhelpful. She accused the clinic of not caring about paying customers. Then she slammed the phone down. And she never showed up. Thank goodness. To this day, it remains one of the top 5 wildest calls I've ever taken. And the bar is high in vet clinics. I love how her brilliant solution to her problem was to just create the exact same problem for someone else. It's wild how some people don't even stop to think about how ridiculous that is. It screams entitlement on another level. Like, instead of planning ahead, she decided that another pet owner should deal with the consequences of her poor planning. Don't forget, she'd probably walk out after getting her way, saying something like, See, that wasn't so hard. People like that genuinely believe the world is supposed to bend around them. Meanwhile, the next client would show up completely confused, wondering why their appointment vanished. It would have caused double the chaos to them just so she didn't have to deal with her own. Imagine being that next client and getting a call from a total stranger demanding your spot. Yeah, that's not a scheduling issue. That's a main character problem. Am I the jerk for refusing to host Thanksgiving after my sister handed out a family code of conduct contract? This happened recently and I'm still baffled. For context, I, 32 female, have hosted Thanksgiving for my family every year since I moved into my house 5 years ago. It's always been a little messy and chaotic, but that's part of the charm, right? This year, my sister, who's 29, decided she wanted to help bring some order to the gathering. At first, I thought she meant coordinating who would bring what dishes or helping with cleaning. Instead, she showed up at my house last week with printed copies of what she called a family code of conduct. She handed these out and insisted everyone read and sign them before attending Thanksgiving. Some highlights included a rule against overlapping conversations at the dinner table, with suggestions for taking turns like a respectful debate club, a ban on political or controversial topics, with her as the final arbiter of what was too heated, a dress code of smart casual because holiday photos should reflect well on the family, assigned seating that she claimed was based on optimal personal compatibility. She was completely serious. When I laughed and said, "You can't be serious," she accused me of not taking her efforts to improve family dynamics seriously. I told her I wasn't going to enforce a code of conduct at my house, and that if she wanted to micromanage Thanksgiving, she could host it herself. She doubled down, saying I was being ungrateful and stubborn. At that point, I decided to cancel hosting altogether. Now the family is mad at me. My mom thinks I should have just humored her for the day to keep the peace, while my brother, who's 35, is refusing to go anywhere unless no one tries to draft a holiday constitution. I'm torn. Was I wrong for standing my ground, or should I have let her run the day just to keep the peace? Just host your brother. Tell everyone else that if they're happy about a code of conduct, they're free to attend your sister's house. However, you will not be hosting. I'm with your brother. This would make me skip Thanksgiving altogether, not the jerk. If she wants to be the Thanksgiving police, she's welcome to attempt this at her own house. Simple fix. Tell her she's welcome to not come to your home for Thanksgiving. Host the family members who are willing to come. Never do something to keep the peace. That just leads to more problems down the road. When your parents get upset and say anything again, let them know they're welcome to go to your sister's and live by her rules for the holiday. Thanksgiving is stressful enough without BS rules. My mother-in-law has only a couple of rules. 1. Food will be on the table as soon as it's done in the afternoon. If you can't make it on time, there will be leftovers. 2. No one may talk about religion or politics. 3. Little kids may have chicken nuggets if they want them. These rules prevent drama. Honestly, you're the jerk. You shouldn't cancel because she's being extreme. Why punish the whole family because she's being rude? Why not punish the rude person alone? Just host. Tell her she can come or she can have a contract, but there won't be both at your house. Let her deal with being ignored all day when no one wants to follow her rules. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her sister? Please let us know. To be fair, some families need a code of conduct for the holidays. If your family doesn't, consider yourself lucky. Am I the jerk for telling my dad's ex she can't stay with us even if she was evicted and lost her car keys at our house? I've been living with and caring for my father, who has dementia caused by Parkinson's and strokes, for the past few years. It's been challenging, but I've been managing things as best I can. A few months ago, one of his ex-girlfriends showed up out of the blue. My dad started saying we needed to help her out, like giving her one of his cars, because she's fallen on hard times. Given his condition and how easily he can be manipulated, this immediately raised alarms for me. Yesterday, she rang every alarm bell possible. She showed up again, this time with her car full of belongings, and acted like she couldn't leave. I say acted because when it came time for her to leave, she claimed it was too dark to drive, even if she managed to find her keys. I told her firmly that she couldn't stay with us. We don't have the space, and she needed to figure out her situation, whether by finding her keys or going to the hotel she claimed to have already booked. She agreed, went back to her car, and sat there in complete darkness for 45 minutes without even turning on a cabin light. Then she came back inside and said she couldn't find her keys, adding that even if she did, she wouldn't drive because it was too dark. I asked her how she expected to find her keys in a pitch-black car without any light, and her response was a bizarre, slurred excuse about trying to compose herself. It honestly sounded like a bad actor pretending to be drunk. She then accused me of rushing her and told me I needed to respect my elders more. At this point, I flat out asked if she was drunk. She dodged the question and tried to change the subject. I asked again what she had been doing in her car for all that time, but she just walked out without answering. My dad later told me her car was packed with her belongings because she had been evicted for refusing to pay rent. Apparently, she felt she was being overcharged, even though it was one of the cheapest apartments in town. From what I can piece together, she has nowhere to go and was trying to force her way into staying with us. I ended up driving her to the hotel she mentioned earlier. On the way, I asked her again what she had been doing in her car in the dark. Her response? She hated sitting in a car with me and would never want to live with us. Then she added that she had been feeling around in the dark for her keys. I told her that didn't sound believable and made it clear she needed to get her stuff today without any further drama. I'm concerned she'll try to prolong the situation, maybe by claiming her keys are gone for good or coming up with some other excuse to insert herself into our lives. My dad has already given her money once and she seems desperate. I'm worried she's trying to take advantage of him in the situation. I'll have to stay vigilant and make sure this doesn't escalate further. Not the jerk. Is your father elderly? You could try filing a complaint for how she's treating him. The financial manipulation is wrong. If she is also elderly, they can get her services as well. Refusing to pay rent seems like a strange reaction. Maybe she has something going on with her as well. Does she have family? I'd get them involved if she does. OP. He's 67. I don't know her age, but I would guess 60s. Refusing to pay rent comes from her. I think it's more likely she didn't have the money for it or spent it on other stuff. Not the jerk. She seems to be trying to manipulate her way into staying, and you're just protecting your dad in his home. Setting boundaries is the right call here. I taught a joker how it feels. A couple of years ago, I found myself in a tough situation. A job with housing fell through, leaving me stranded in a strange town, in a state I didn't know, with no money and no place to call home. I was desperate. I managed to get a job waitressing at a diner and picked up a side gig cleaning at night. I worked every hour I could, scraping by for 3 long months. Those months were exhausting. I was constantly tired, often dirty, and hungry more often than not. Eventually, I caught a break and found someone looking for a roommate. Things began to improve. I even adopted a little cat who kept me company during the lonely nights. The town was close to a tourist area, which turned out to be a small blessing. Lost tourists meant the diner stayed busy most days. Sundays, however, were the worst. Sundays brought in mostly locals who, as a rule, didn't tip. Without tips, I often couldn't afford to eat. One Sunday, a local family left what looked to be a $100 tip. My heart leapt. That money would have meant food for days. But when I picked it up, I realized it was fake. On the back of the bill was a sermon about the value of God's riches, along with a stamp for the local church. I was furious and crushed. I was working so hard just to survive, and this felt like a cruel joke. Over the next year, that same family became regulars at the diner. I recognized the man as the one who had left the fake 100. One day, I gently mentioned how disappointed I'd been when I realized it wasn't real. He brushed it off with a self-satisfied smile and told me, "Riches and God are better." He never tipped, not even once. In September, a hurricane came through and flooded the diner. It had to close down, leaving me jobless once again. With no work to keep me busy, I decided to visit the church stamped on that fake $100 bill. I figured I'd see what it was all about. I bought a $2 lottery ticket and went to the church that Sunday. To my surprise, the $100 pastor was there, leading the service. The congregation was small, only about 30 people, and the church itself had taken some damage in the storm. Part of the roof was missing. Despite everything, the people were kind. I recognized many of them from the diner, though I hadn't known their names before. I wasn't much of a churchgoer, but the experience was different and a little heartwarming. When the offering basket came around, I put in my $2 lottery ticket. The pastor teased me afterward, saying he had never received a lottery ticket in the collection before. I laughed and told him he'd be getting another one next week. "Maybe God will make you lucky," I said. He seemed to find it amusing. That second week, I brought another lottery ticket. The pastor joked about it again, and I smiled, thinking it was a harmless way to contribute. The third week, I decided to mix things up. My brother had once given me a fake lottery ticket as a gag. It looked real at first glance, but was completely worthless. I had kept it as a little keepsake from him, but now I had a use for it. I slipped that fake ticket into the offering basket. By the fourth week, I had landed a new job in Cincinnati and was preparing to leave town. I went to church one last time to say goodbye to everyone. The congregation had been kind to me, and I appreciated their warmth during a difficult time. Before I left, the pastor pulled me aside. He spoke quietly but firmly, saying the fake lottery ticket had been hurtful. He explained how excited he'd been, thinking it was enough to fix the church's roof, only to realize it was a joke. He told me I should think about my actions as I drove to my new job. I looked him in the eye and said, "Now you know how I felt when you gave me that fake $100 bill while I was sleeping in my car and hungry." Then I left, feeling a sense of closure. The entire drive to Cincinnati, I couldn't stop smiling. It was, without a doubt, the best thing I've ever done. Drinking on my doorstep? Get fired. Many years ago, I worked in an office located in the city center, just a couple of blocks from my rented apartment. This made it easy to head home for lunch, something I enjoyed immensely. It was so nice to relax in the comfort of my own home in the middle of a busy workday. Everything was perfect until summer came around. The bar next to the building's entrance became a magnet for people looking to enjoy a beer in the sun. The building's doorway was narrow, and occasionally I'd find someone sitting on the doorstep with a drink in hand, especially on weekends. At first, it wasn't a big deal. I'd simply say, "Sorry, bud, I need to get in here," and they'd usually apologize, stand up, and let me pass. It was a minor inconvenience at most. Then, one day, everything changed. I came home for lunch and found a construction worker, about 50 years old, sitting on the doorstep. He was wearing a high-visibility vest and a safety hat with a half-drunk beer in his hand. I said my usual, "Sorry, bud," expecting him to move. Instead, he looked up at me with absolute contempt, then looked down again and stayed put. I had no choice but to lean over him, unlock the door, and awkwardly squeeze past. When it was time to head back to work, he was still there, this time with a fresh beer in hand. Again, he refused to move when I asked to get by. The next day it happened again, except this time he mumbled, "Jerk," as I passed. I was absolutely furious. Day after day, this guy ruined my otherwise peaceful lunch routine. Eventually, it got so bad, I didn't even want to go home for lunch anymore. Sometimes he was still sitting there when I came home at the end of my workday. I decided enough was enough. One afternoon, I took a longer lunch than usual and ate on a bench diagonally across from my apartment. From there, I watched him arrive at the bar, order a beer, and settle on my doorstep as if it were his personal patio. He drank 3 beers before getting up to leave. This was my chance. I followed him to his workplace, which turned out to be just down the street. Here's where I got lucky. He was working on a building project I knew very well. I'm a structural engineer, and my colleagues were the engineers for that very site. I didn't know this guy's name, but his goatee and mullet ponytail combo made him impossible to miss. I went up to my colleague's floor and casually asked them what they thought of the site manager for that project. They told me he was a great guy, professional, and easy to work with. That was all I needed to hear. "Next time you're on site," I said, "let him know that it's come to your attention one of his workers has been drinking at least 2 beers every lunchtime at this bar and returning to work drunk. He's about 50, with brown hair, a goatee, and a mullet." 3 days later, my colleague came back with an update. The site manager had been absolutely furious when he heard. He knew exactly who it was and had zero tolerance for anyone drinking on the job, as it posed a danger to everyone on site. He decided to follow the guy during his lunch break, catching him in the act of drinking on my doorstep. As soon as the worker returned to the site, the manager fired him on the spot in front of all the other workers. He wanted to send a clear message. A. Nobody should be so reckless. And B. Word should spread about how irresponsible this guy was. Good luck finding work in this town, pal. What to do after a failed proposal. Now I, 28 male, live awkwardly with my girlfriend who's 27. My girlfriend and I have been together for 2 years. 6 months ago, she asked me to propose to her within 6 months, which I did. During this time, she heavily hinted that she wanted an engagement ring with particular stones that were difficult to find at a regular jeweler. I ended up buying it from a special store. The ring cost more than $500, which was beyond what I wanted to spend, but I was so sure she was going to be my spouse that I stretched my budget. She appreciates it so much when she gets something she loves, and this ring seemed perfect. When the time came, I proposed. I went out of my way to plan something beautiful and creative to make it a perfect proposal. She accepted, but then started crying. She revealed that she was unsure if she loved me because her job had been so stressful lately, and her feelings had changed since she told me she wanted to be engaged. It hit me like a brick wall, and I felt like my life was falling apart. We took a break for a week before deciding to get back together and try again. Things are somewhat okay now, but we are nowhere near the place we were before. That's very clear. I wanted to return the ring since it wasn't engraved or anything, but their return policy turned out to be a nightmare. They refused to take it back because a piece of paper attached to the ring was removed during the proposal. I had returned the box and all of the certificates, but removing the tag disqualified it from being returned. I was beyond frustrated, feeling like I had lost $500 on a worthless ring I couldn't use for anything. What made it worse was that I bought it because the woman I love told me it was the thing she wanted most in the world. When I told her what had happened, she simply said, "That sucks," and went about her day. I felt like it was unfair for me to take the hit when she changed her mind about giving me any hints or telling me. I started to wonder if the relationship was doomed to fail. Was it even worth trying to mend things? Was I being unreasonable for thinking I shouldn't have to shoulder the $500 loss on my own? And was this store the worst jewelry company in the world? At first, I couldn't let the money issue go. I felt bitter and angry, and it added to everything else going on. However, I eventually realized I needed to move past it. Holding on to that resentment was petty and only making things worse. It wasn't about the money itself, but rather everything that had led to this point. As for the relationship, I wasn't sure if we could get through this. Reddit's feedback was overwhelmingly negative, and most people told me to move on. I just struggled to move past the failed proposal, though. Something broke inside me that day, and I haven't been able to repair it. I tried to save the relationship because I still care about her, but I've been questioning whether I can ever truly let this go. After a lot of soul-searching, I decided to break the news to her. We both cried a lot. She told me she loves me and doesn't want to give up on our relationship. I told her I've been depressed and haven't been able to get over what happened. She said she couldn't control her feelings, but now she knows she loves me. I asked her to move back in with her parents for at least December while I take some time to figure things out. She told me to take as much time as I need. My plan is to focus on myself, live my best life, and see how I feel. If I still miss her and think we can make it work, maybe we'll try again. If not, it's best to end it for good. For anyone wondering, I know for a fact that she hasn't been cheating. I also want to address some comments about the price of the ring. Spending $500 on an engagement ring is considered perfectly reasonable where I'm from. Some people don't even propose with a ring. It's definitely an American thing to be so obsessed with engagement rings and their cost. At the end of the day, I love her, and I still think she could be the one for me. However, we're facing significant challenges. Instead of giving up, we've decided to work through them together. For anyone dealing with relationship troubles, I would advise staying off Reddit. Most people here are so bitter that they want to ruin everyone else's relationships. While there are some genuinely supportive people with great advice, the negativity can be overwhelming. I'm grateful to those who encouraged me to think my feelings through and who offered kind words. Just pawn the ring. $500 is nothing compared to the cost of marrying the wrong person. Job stress does not cause someone to lose feeling for a significant other. Find yourself a new place to live. I think you're using the cost of the ring as the target for your anger and disappointment because you don't want to put that on your girlfriend. Your focus is on the money and not so much on repairing the relationship, which is confusing. A rejected proposal would be a relationship destroyer for me. You can resell the ring, oh well, but your resentment and her lack of communication doesn't bode well. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know.
I've been a bit stressed about work lately, Reddit boy. Not sure I love you anymore. Just being honest.
Am I the jerk for calling my dad's wife illiterate because I suspect that she is? I'm 26 female. My dad, who's 50, has been living with his partner, Anne, who's 55, for about 15 years. Anne had a really sad and rough upbringing. Her parents were addicts, she was in foster care, and she didn't graduate high school. We've never really gotten along. Recently, my dad suffered a back injury. He told me he was on paid medical leave for a month, but my grandma later informed me that he had only taken 2 weeks off using his remaining sick days in PTO. Despite still being in severe pain, he had gone back to work after those 2 weeks. When I visited him shortly after, I confronted him about lying. He explained that Anne was handling his FMLA paperwork and that he didn't want us to worry. While we were talking, Anne came out and told me to leave it alone. She made a comment along the lines of,
"You're not the only one who knows how to do this stuff. I promise, I've been filling out forms since before you were born."
There's a long-standing suspicion in my dad's family that Anne might be functionally illiterate, but no one ever addresses it when he's around. Her Facebook posts and texts are often filled with errors and seems like they're written by someone learning to spell phonetically. For example, our, O-U-R, is always R-A-R-E, and great becomes grat. I've noticed she primarily uses the voice typing feature on her phone and has Siri read her texts. When my brother was a teenager, he got in big trouble with our grandma for asking Anne to read a birthday card out loud, which embarrassed her. Understandably, she called him a jerk for it. We're not close, so I don't know for sure if she's illiterate, but it's been a long-standing suspicion. 2 weeks later, I called to check in on the FMLA paperwork. My dad said he was feeling better and decided to just keep working. I knew he wasn't fully recovered. He was hunched over the last time I saw him. I asked to speak with Anne directly to get an update. Anne told me it wasn't my business, but if we were really concerned, we should just give them money so he could stay home. That comment pushed me over the edge. I blew up and said,
It should not take you a month to fill out a few forms. You know you're illiterate, so just let me do the paperwork." After that, they hung up, and my dad hasn't spoken to me since. I feel terrible for using her struggles as an insult because I know that it's probably a huge insecurity for her. However, her lack of urgency about my dad's health and their financial situation infuriated me. I thought the bluntness was warranted, but now I'm questioning if I went too far. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. I don't see why your dad can't fill out his own forms, to be honest, or why the two of you seem to believe it's Anne's responsibility to do this for him. If he'd rather work than sit down and fill out a form, that's his choice to make. If you suspect Anne needs help, you can easily offer without insulting her. Wait, let me get this straight. Your dad needs FMLA paperwork completed for his job for his injury. Your dad is not functionally illiterate because otherwise you would have said so and is able to complete the forms on his own, likely much easier than Anne if she is actually illiterate. But your dad is not completing his forms because he doesn't want to handle his own adult responsibilities, but somehow this is Anne's fault? Did I get that right? You're the jerk. That was a pretty nasty insult, and you're also absolving your father while blaming his wife. For not doing the forms he should be doing himself. Do better. Am I the jerk for ruining the holidays due to placing our mom in long-term care? I, 28 male, have two siblings, Theo, who's 35, and Abby, who's 38. Our mother had a stroke in 2019, and our father passed in early 2021. Since then, I've been the one taking care of our mom. I even dropped out of my graduate program to do so. Since January, things with our mom have become more stressful. Her memory issues have worsened, I've been dealing with sleepless nights, and I've completely felt burnt out. During all this time, my siblings haven't offered any help. They have their own families and lives, and the responsibility fell on me because I was already staying with our parents in their apartment in New York while attending school there. Every year, I'd either fly or drive our mom to Virginia so she could see my siblings and her grandkids. Back in February, I found a place for our mom where she could get more consistent care. I informed Theo and Abby about it, and they didn't raise any objections at the time. However, now that the holidays are approaching, they've been asking if I'll be bringing mom to Virginia this year. I told them no, but I made it clear they were welcome to take her if they wanted. I even made sure they were on the approved list of people who can take her out. They both told me it would be too complicated for them to handle. I responded that it was unfortunate, but I wouldn't be available because I was going on vacation. That's when I started getting bombarded by messages from them, as well as other family members, calling me selfish and heartless for not bringing our mom for the holidays. Frustrated, I lashed out at Theo, who's hosting Thanksgiving this year. I told him he had no right to call me selfish. I was the one who stepped up to care for mom after her stroke and when dad passed. I've dealt with the sleepless nights, her wondering, her outbursts, all her doctor's appointments. I was the one who handled getting her Medicaid, and I put my life on hold to do so. Meanwhile, they only got to see the pleasant side of mom. When she had outbursts, I was the one who dealt with them. I reminded Theo that neither he nor Abby even offered to help plan our dad's funeral. They left me to handle everything. Theo claimed he didn't realize I needed help and figured I had it all under control. He said I should have asked. That really set me off. I told him I shouldn't have had to ask. I was only 23 when mom had her stroke and 25 when dad passed. It should have been obvious I was under immense stress trying to manage everything. In the heat of the moment, I told him, "Fine, I'll ask now. Can you come pick up mom so she can go to Thanksgiving with you? I'll even cover the travel fare." He immediately came up with excuses, saying it was too short notice. So I said, "Okay, what about Christmas?" He came up with another excuse. At that point, I lost it. I told him, "This is exactly why I didn't ask for help. You and Abby always find some excuse to get out of it. That's how you two have always been. I've had to shoulder everything while they've been avoiding responsibility, and now they have the audacity to criticize me when I finally set a boundary." Not the jerk. As someone who works in long-term care, you did the right thing. We see so much caregiver burnout. We are trained to work with our residents. We are trained to handle outbursts, dementia, etc., and we get relief. We get to change shifts and step away from things. It's incredible seeing the change in some of our families once their loved one is in our care. The amount of relief they feel. They're able to fully just think about themselves again. Your siblings suck. They're the worst kinds of people in my opinion. The type of people who refuse to acknowledge the stress their family member is experiencing and who demonize placing a loved one in long-term care. My new neighbor is demanding I change my dog's name. I, 36 male, am the owner of a great dog named Charlotte, who's 6. I live in a lower middle-class suburb in an unspecified part of the US. I've lived here for about a year now, and I let Charlotte out to use the bathroom about 5 or 6 times a day. It's always the same routine. I open the back door, Charlotte runs outside to go to the bathroom and patrol the yard, and typically doesn't come back until I poke my head out and call out her name. About a week or two ago, new neighbors moved in across my back alley. I had no intentions of interacting with them whatsoever, except today when I was executing the last step of Charlotte's aforementioned potty protocol. I stuck my head out and called her name, but this time, alongside the familiar sounds of my dog galloping up, was an adult human voice shouting something along the lines of, "Why are you calling my daughter?" At first, I thought it might just be my new neighbors getting into a spat, until a couple of minutes later, I heard pounding on my front door. I opened the door to an angry woman glaring at me. She said something like, "Why are you calling my daughter over?" And I responded, "Your daughter's name is Charlotte?" And she just kept glaring at me. In absence of a response, I followed up with, "Charlotte is my dog's name." And she rolled her eyes at me and said I better change my dog's name because she doesn't want her daughter, who's 2, getting confused and running over to my house. I told her that's not going to happen because not only did my dog have the name first, we have also lived here first. Plus, I don't like strangers making demands of me before even attempting to be polite. She called me stupid and said that a human child obviously has priority over a dog for a name. I shut the door in her face and glared at her through the peephole for a moment before she eventually walked back to her house. Last potty break, I went out with Charlotte and stayed in the yard with her until she was finished. But the neighbor just kept staring at me with her arms crossed and glared at me the entire time. Not the jerk. You're not obligated to rename your dog. Continue with your usual routine. If their daughter were to come over, you just don't answer the door, or you simply tell her to go back home. You can get a restraining order or file a report if that neighbor harasses and threatens you more. Not the jerk. This is one of the dumbest requests I've ever heard. Sorry to say, but these neighbors are going to be trouble. Just don't give in to their temptations to escalate a feud. Carry on with your business and try not to let them get under your skin.
Imagine if your own sister-in-law stole your cat. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap, come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.